Court is now back in session. Ready to move?
Your Honor, the defendant's calls Patrick Donahere. Oh. My video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Left that part off. That'll be fine. Yes.
Patrick, is that correct?
He's by video. He's by video.
It's by video. Thank you.
Senior Director of Talent Planning.
Good morning. And let's just begin with some general background questions. You start, where did you format?
Patrick William Donovan.
What is your job title with ESPN?
Senior Director of Talent Planning and Development.
And out of which office do you work?
The Bristol Office, Council Office.
How long have you held this position at ESPN?
Coming up on 7 years in September.
Okay. And how would you describe your job responsibilities?
Oversee on-air performance for what I call amateur sports, college sports across all our various platforms. ESPN, ESPN 2, ABC, Law&Crime, SEC Network, etc.
Okay. And if you could flesh it out a little bit as to what all that entails.
Watching them on air, critiquing what they do, giving their feedback.
Okay. All right, and so you're involved with finding locating talent?
Correct.
Okay. And what when did you first meet Erin Andrews?
Fall 08.
And how did that come about? What was the circumstances?
I attended a football game.
Okay. And did you have a work relationship with Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Okay, if you would just describe that to me.
Saying she's an on-air talent who worked amateur sports, it sort of fell under my job description.
If you would just go back and describe your work relationship with Ms. Andrews, I mean, what was your work relationship with Ms. Andrews?
Watch her work, provide a critique, talk to her about certain points if needed.
Okay. And was that before she would go on air? Was that after?
After.
Okay. I mean, and if you would just describe how that would work.
I'd watch an assignment she did, college football, for example, critique her interviews, her reports on air, take some notes, discuss with my production counterparts, and if needed, circle back with her with any concerns.
Would you all meet? Where would you all meet? Was that done at ESPN offices? Was that done?
No. I mean, that could be done over a phone call, email. Not necessarily a physical meeting.
Okay. And about how long would you all discuss her performance?
Varies.
Okay. So, I mean, sometimes, I mean, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, just depending.
Some games we could not discuss her at all because there's nothing really relevant to talk about. Other times it could be, I didn't like this on-air report.
Okay.
Other times, really liked what she did here.
After the incident, did you see any changes or issues with her performance?
No.
And before the incident, how would you describe her performance? I mean, you critiqued her or giving her feedback. What kind of feedback would you give her?
More about her style.
What would you tell her?
I tell her sometimes she needs to be a little bit more serious.
Okay. Anything else?
Not really, that was her main area of target that we sort of looked at.
How would you generally describe her performance?
Very good.
After the incident, did Ms. Andrews miss any time from work?
Not that I'm aware.
And did you see her performance suffer in any way as a result of the events involving Mr. Barrett? What the answer?
No.
Do you know if anyone at ESPN determined Ms. Andrews' job performance suffered in any way as a result of the events involving Mr. Barrett? You answer.
I didn't re-ask that question.
Well, I was asked you, and then I asked, did anyone at ESPN make that determination? Any objections?
I can't speak for them.
Okay. At the Thursday night college game started 2009 season, did you attend that event? Or did you attend that game?
Which games specifically?
The opening Thursday night college football game for the 2009 season.
Yes.
Okay. And was Ms. Andrews there?
Yes.
She was covering the game?
Yes.
Okay. And where were you during the game?
Multiple places.
Okay. Did you all talk at all before the game?
I don't recall.
Okay. So you wouldn't strike that. How did she seem before the game?
Nervous.
How did she see, was anything unusual about her nervousness?
Yeah.
Was she usually nervous before going on air?
Not really, no.
Okay, so she was nervous for this game?
Yes.
And how did she do during the 2009 season?
Fine.
So it was fair to say she did a good job covering the games?
Yes.
Are you aware of any issues that Ms. Andrews had with her performance off the air?
No.
Okay. After 2012, Ms. Andrews decided to go to Fox Sports. Did you have any discussion with her about her decision to leave ESPN and go to Fox?
No.
Did you want to keep her at ESPN?
Yes.
Did you ever convey that to her?
No.
Did you convey that to anyone at ESPN?
Yes.
Okay, who?
Production counterparts.
What did you tell them?
She makes us better.
And why is that?
Good presence. Well respected.
To your knowledge, Was there any indication that Ms. Andrews could not adequately function to perform her job at any time during her career at ESPN?
No.
And to your knowledge, at any point in Ms. Andrews' career, did ESPN make any determination that she was suffering from a severe mental injury?
Not to my knowledge.
To your knowledge, at any point in Ms. Andrews' career at ESPN, was any determination made that she could not perform a broadcast because her life was in danger or there was an imminent threat to her life or safety?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. To your knowledge, at any point in Ms. Andrews' career, did ESPN make any determination that she should not travel for an event because her life was in danger or there was an imminent threat to her life or her safety?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. To your knowledge, at any point in Ms. Andrews' career, did ESPN make any determination that she should not appear on the sidelines for an event because her life was in danger or there was an imminent threat to her life or safety?
Not to my knowledge.
To your knowledge, at any point in Ms. Andrews' career, did ESPN determine that she was unfit to work on a broadcast team?
Not to my knowledge.
And it would be fair to say that Ms. Andrews was a relentless worker who had an extremely successful career during her tenure at ESPN?
I think that's fair.
Your position within ESPN in evaluating talent, well, for benefit of myself and for a jury that may hear this case later on, what other talent did you assess and evaluate by name? Just examples of people.
Brian Greasy, Matt Millen, Kaylee Hartung, Todd Blackledge, long list, hundreds.
So with respect to ESPN, in your role at ESPN, it is your job duty to assess and evaluate on-air talent so that ESPN can compete effectively and better, hopefully, than other networks around the world. Would that be correct?
Not fully correct.
How's that not correct? I won't understand.
I'm domestic talent. I don't do international.
And I understand that. What I'm saying is that ESPN has identified you as someone they believe is capable of assessing its on-air talent so that ESPN can compete with its competition, which are other major networks that do the same thing in the industry. Correct?
Correct.
Do you think you do the job well? I'm assuming.
I don't think so.
And you've been in the position for how long?
7 years.
So it would appear ESPN must think that too. So how do you do your job in assessing whether an on-air talent is being effective? What makes them good? I'm sorry.
Depends on the role, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. In a role like Miss Andrews had, what made her good?
Presence, connections, style, those sort of things.
And the reason I asked that question because you had testified, Mr. Harwell, that you thought that she did good in her job, right?
Yes.
And that in fact, you wanted to keep her at ESPN when she went to Fox in 2004.
Yes.
So what was it about her presence, for example, that made her good in that capacity that she had as an on-air talent?
Natural.
What does that mean?
Some on-air talent, we say, play broadcaster. They seem fake and unrelatable. She seems natural and somebody you see on the street, be friendly, natural personality.
And then connections, what does that mean?
Are you asking about my last question or answer?
Right.
Connections means relationships with players, coaches, etc. to get information that would readily be available to.
Let me ask you this, are you talking in the context that she knew people that she could deliver to ESPN, or that she connected with the people that she was interviewing or speaking with, or both?
Both.
And then style, what, in the context you use, what does that mean?
Everyone has a style and how they go about and do their job, and hers is interesting to us.
What was her style?
Laid back, relatable.
And you took over the role that you discussed with me relative to Ms. Andrews in 2009, the fall of 2009. Is that what you testified?
2008.
2008, I'm sorry. And you continued in that capacity in assessing Ms. Andrews until 2012.
Yes.
In 2012, when she left to go to Fox, you believe that she was good in the role that she had at ESPN.
Yes.
And you, if I understand you, wanted her to stay at ESPN versus go to Fox. Is that correct?
Yes.
In your opinion, had she continued to improve in the roles or obligations she had as an owner of talent between 2008 and 2012?
I do.
Had she not improved, would you agree that because you are in an incredibly competitive industry, she may not have stayed in her position?
Can't be certain.
Would you agree that ESPN demands the best performance from its on-air talent?
We do our best.
Would you agree with me that Ms. Andrews, in your opinion, between 2009 and 2012, gave a performance that was expected by ESPN in her capacity as an on-air talent?
Yes.
But as we sit here today, you feel as though you were in a good position to assess how she did her job, correct?
Yes.
And you feel and agree with ESPN that you're an appropriate person to give us the assessment of how Ms. Andrews performed her job, correct?
Yes.
So now going to the next question, based on what you observed when she came back, and understanding your testimony previously, you believe she did a good job when she returned to ESPN as an on-air talent in the fall of 2009, right?
Yes.
Did you think that her performance, as we sit here today, do you have any recollection of her performing in a way that was less good than she had done before July of 2009?
No.
Based on your observation of how she performed when she came back, do you think the decision that she was ready to come back was vindicated?
Yes.
In other words, it was the right decision on behalf of ESPN to bring her back, in your opinion, relative to her performance and how she performed.
Yes.
It's true that Ms. Andrews and people doing a job like her are professionals at what they do, right?
Yes.
They get paid to appear on air prepared, ask the questions, and be professional, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming, tell me if I'm wrong, in terms of the other people you've evaluated and critiqued, that they've had personal issues, medical issues, other things that may affect their personal lives, but yet they're still evaluated as a professional on air. True? True. Okay. For a sideline reporter in the 2009 time frame of college football, they're on air 5 to 10 minutes max, is that right?
I think that's fair.
Okay, so your evaluation of her performance in her job would be 10 minutes or less of her on-air communication, questions, how she presented herself, right?
Her on there, okay, yes.
Exactly. So whether she was concerned about getting messages that fans had seen her naked, or whether people were catcalling from the stand, that was any part of your analysis of her job performance, correct?
Correct.
And I know you've been asked this, and I want to make sure we're clear. There was no time where you ever had any discussions with Ms. Andrews about the incident, how it's affected her, any of the messages she's received from fans, anything like that. Is that true?
Never.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, called by video, deposition of Louis K. And Your Honor, that was kind of low. I don't know if anybody had any trouble with the sound. We would need to try to do something to adjust that.
It was a little low, but
Okay.
I heard it. I can hear it. I'm still trying to come through and hear it. Ms. Hoffman, do you have somebody to pick up your job?
Thank you, Karen.
You can't hear me.
Thank you, Fran.
All right, so you are Erin Andrews' publicist, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long have you had that role as Ms. Andrews' publicist?
I would say it's probably about 2 years now.
Sometime in 2012 then?
Yeah, mid-2012.
And what were the circumstances that you became Ms. Andrews' publicist sometime in 2012?
I have a mutual friend, and I knew she was looking for a new representative, and the friend introduced us, and we had breakfast, and she signed on with us.
And when you say she signed on with PMK BNC?
Correct.
And you have been her publicist since that time in 2012?
Correct.
So as you sit here today, you are currently her publicist?
Correct. And we also have a relationship where we manage her as well.
And when you say we, you're talking about PMK BNC?
Correct.
And what role do you individually have as it relates to Ms. Andrews?
I oversee all of the entire relationship with the company.
I mean, you oversee both the publicist role and the manager role?
Correct.
Maybe you can help us understand a little bit what the role of a publicist is as compared to a manager, okay?
Yeah.
So start with the publicist. Please describe the types of services you provide.
You sound like my mom trying to figure out what I do for a living. Primarily, our job is to engage with all of the public-facing activities in her life that do not relate to her day-to-day employment. So all kind of incoming requests that come her way, and then at certain times, when appropriate, being strategic and aggressive with looking for publicity around various initiatives and campaigns. I would say that would be the publicist description.
And let's just stick with publicist. Do you do all that yourself personally, or is there a team?
I have a colleague, Carly Morgan, who works with me on all things here. And then there's some administrative support, but Carly and I are all the people that deal with her.
And you said her last name was Morgan?
Yes. She got married since, so if you see other names with a different last name.
Or what's her last name?
Schenker was her maiden.
You described for us a few minutes ago the role as publicist. How does that differ from your role as a manager for Ms. Andrews?
What differs is on the management side, we are dealing with business opportunities that come her way and offering opinions and advice, and then working hand in hand with her agent to coordinate and see them through from start to finish.
Anything else?
No, I mean, primarily it's really about offering advice and strategy on the direction of her career.
And you mentioned Ms. Andrews' agent. Who are you referring to?
IMG.
The IMG you principally deal with respect to Ms. Andrews?
Sorry, Iris Dahlberger.
Have you personally been involved with these services for Ms. Andrews since 2012?
Yes.
And at the beginning, was PMK BNC providing both the publicist and manager role?
No.
Okay, what role were you providing first?
Publicist.
And at some point, manager was added?
Yes.
When did that happen?
I don't exactly recall. I want to give you the month.
A rough estimate's fine.
I mean, I would say probably a year later.
So sometime...
Wait, I just realized something. I messed up the dates. We started working with her in 11. Sorry. And then the manager thing happened in 2012. And I'm equating all this because of the Stanley Cup and the Kings. And now I remember why. So yeah, sorry. We started working in July of 2011. And then we took on the management responsibilities in, I would actually say, about July 2012.
And is...
Sorry about that.
Is PMK BNC Ms. Andrews' sole publicist and manager currently?
Yes.
And with respect to the management function, again, is that performed principally by you and Ms. Schnecker?
Yes.
Prior to July of 2011, did you know Ms. Andrews personally?
I did not.
Did you know of her professionally?
Yes, I did.
And so, when was the first time that you actually personally met Ms. Andrews?
It was the ESPYs in 2011.
Was that sometime in the July timeframe?
Yes.
And was the purpose of you meeting her around July 2011 to talk about providing services as her publicist?
Correct.
Let's talk in a little bit more detail about the services you perform as a publicist for Ms. Andrews. And I think you used the phrase public-facing activities. What do you mean by that?
Well, when media are interested in talking to her, or if she has, for example, with her current employer, if Fox is doing has a PR push that they're doing, we're the people that are dealing, with the coordination and also proactively looking for strategically right opportunities for her on behalf.
And so, in performing that role, do you also work with Fox's PR department?
We'll keep each other in the loop. Yeah.
Does PMK BNC represent just individuals as publicists?
Oh no, our company is our entertainment group is made up of talent clients, which are individuals, film, television, special events, music, lifestyle. So we represent, and then we have a brands division that represents everything from multiple Fortune 500 companies, such.
So one aspect of your business, though, is providing services as a publicist to individuals.
Correct.
And do you know whether Ms. Andrews had a publicist prior to July 2011?
I do know, yes.
Did she?
Yes.
And who was that, if you know?
I just know her first name, to be honest. It was Alejandra, but I don't remember her last name.
Did you have any discussions with Alejandra in July 2011 when you became Ms. Andrews' publicist?
No. Not standard for when we make a transition should have it's an uncomfortable conversation.
Understood. And so what was going on in Miss Andrews' professional life around July 2011 when you became her publicist? Where was she working in July 2011?
ESPN.
Okay, what was she doing as of July 2011?
She was doing their college football coverage, and I think there were a variety of other one-off things that she was doing, but I wouldn't recall all of them. But she was primarily focusing on college football.
Well, is it your understanding that Miss Andrews sought your services out in July 2011?
Yes.
Is one of the things you do as a publicist for Miss Andrews to work to generate positive media attention about her?
Sure, that's fair. I mean, I would say that that's a part of what we do for all of our clients.
Well, do you know what the agenda or goal is for Miss Andrews?
I would hope I know that now, yes. I don't know if I knew what it was in July 2011, though.
Well, how soon after you started working for Miss Andrews did you know what that agenda or goal was?
I would think it'd be fair to say the following year when we took on that management role.
And can you tell me what that agenda or goal is?
The management role grew out of a trust that had been established between us, and part of our job became dealing, primarily it was mostly incoming requests, because there was a lot of things that would come in where she'd be either comfortable or uncomfortable, and she trusted our opinions on what made sense for her and her at that time.
And so what were you doing in the first year that you started representing her from July 2011 until you figured out what that agenda or goal was?
I mean, very just straightforward publicity. I'm mostly dealing with incoming and looking for, like I think I said before, strategic opportunities, that made sense for her.
Can you expand a little bit about what you mean by straightforward publicity, what that entails?
Straightforward publicity is dealing with, like I said, the incoming requests and then proactively looking for key opportunities that would make sense during times of the year when her profile needs to be expanded.
What do you mean by her profile needs to be expanded?
But when college football is kicking off, she has a responsibility for her employer and making sure that people are aware of what she's doing to keep her credibility and her face out during that time period.
And your firm helped manage that process, is that fair?
Yeah.
And what input did Ms. Andrews have into that?
A lot of input. I mean, it's her life and her career, so it's a very interactive relationship.
And how did you deal with Ms. Andrews? Was it in person, by phone, by email?
I would say primarily by phone and email. I don't know, I mean, we'd see each other from time to time. Back then she wasn't living in Los Angeles, so.
And has that changed since she's been living in Los Angeles?
I mean, we see each other more from time to time, just due to the proximity, and we're also both huge Kings fans, unless you're Kings. But in terms of professionally, it's mostly phone and email. Text.
When you talk about dealing with incoming requests, are those requests from other media outlets for interviews?
Correct.
Anything else?
I mean, whoever she's working for at the time, whether it's if a brand has engaged her, or whether it's Fox or previously ESPN, they'll have certain requests, and everything would funnel through our office.
When you talk about a brand, you're talking about like some sort of company that's endorsing her?
Correct.
And then how does that work when there is a brand or company endorsing her?
When a brand is endorsing her, they make an agreement with their agent, and part of that, usually there is a public relations clause to that, and we help work with the agent to manage what has been agreed upon.
And she gets paid for that endorsement?
And she gets paid for the endorsement, correct?
And how do you go about selecting which endorsements to, or which products or companies to endorse? Is that something you're involved with, or is it just Ms. Sanders?
I'm involved over the last 2 years as a manager. It's kind of an esoteric question to answer. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into like what we would think is the right thing for her to do, and so a lot of variables in that question.
Can you point me to any specific examples of requests for endorsements that were turned down by Ms. Andrews?
I don't know if I feel comfortable answering that, just out of respect to the brand. Not usually something we talk about. I mean, if you guys tell me I need to answer it, I can try to figure it out. But she has turned down several opportunities over the years, but we don't usually talk about that. It's kind of bad form in my business to talk about that stuff.
Without getting into specific names, because I think that was what was causing the concern, is it fair to say that Ms. Andrews has rejected certain requests for endorsements?
Yes, that's fair.
Rejected certain requests for endorsements?
Yes, that's fair.
Can you tell me the names, though, of companies that she, the opposite of that question, who she actually is providing endorsement services for?
There was SK Energy, Ticketmaster, Probiotics, which is through Bayer, Physique 57, which is a workout. I know I'm missing stuff right now, but I'm sorry, I would have written them down.
Yeah, so those are examples.
Those are examples, yes.
And do you know whether those endorsements, do they get renewed annually, or is it a term contract, or how does it work?
Each one's different. Like as in those four, like currently we let SK and we let that lapse. So, but each one's different.
And are you currently continue to market Ms. Andrews for potential endorsements?
Yes.
Is that something that's a big deal for her brand or her image?
Well, I think it's more about it's a bigger deal for her bottom line, but yeah, we're always currently looking for stuff that makes sense for her.
And where there is an endorsement deal, does your firm negotiate that contract for her, or does somebody else?
IMG does.
Her agent?
Yeah, her agents. Sorry, I lost that. Yes, her agents negotiate the deal.
Same question for example, when Ms. Andrews went from ESPN to Fox, was that something that your firm was involved in the negotiations of the business terms of that?
We were not.
Again, Ms. Andrews' agent?
Correct. It was a different agent, but not Ira. Sandy Montag is her contractual agent. Ira does all the marketing.
Besides endorsements, or potential endorsements, what other types of potential business opportunities do you address as Ms. Andrews' publicist or manager?
I think that pretty much covers what we do. Is again, the role of manager in the entertainment business is somewhat of an esoteric thing. It's just more about consulting and advising on the direction of a career. So even as a role, as professional opportunities even that come through Fox, we're certainly talking to Erin and strategizing and figuring out what makes sense.
This may be, I'm looking for your best estimate here. Approximately how much did you deal with Ms. Andrews, let's say, in that first year of July 11 through July 12? You can give an estimate of how much would you deal with her maybe on an average monthly basis?
Oh man, it's kind of an impossible question to answer, to be perfectly honest. I have a lot of clients and there's a lot of juggling out there that I can't really, but
your dealings with Ms. Andrews, have they increased since July 2011 as far as the volume of interaction you have with her?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Okay. Has Ms. Andrews' image, okay, how has that changed, if at all, since July 2011 when you started representing her?
I think that it's certainly increased. Not even to put the word in your mouth for you, but I guess I would say the awareness. But it's more targeted and structured, and I think, not to pat ourselves on the back, but in just a more focused manner than it was before.
And when you use the word targeted, are you talking about a potential market or a class of people out there who are watching her, or different? I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding the word market. Or target, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say that with anybody that we represent, there's a strategic way that we go about trying to raise awareness with a certain key group, so yeah.
And as far as that audience, have you gone beyond just sports for Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
And how would you describe the target market for Ms. Andrews?
I would say that a big part of what we wanted and hoped to do was to make her more appealing to a wider demographic of outside just hardcore football fans.
You believe you've achieved that?
I believe it's a work in progress. I believe that we're on the right path.
Have you hit any bumps in the road along the way?
Can you further ask? I don't know exactly what you mean by that.
Well,
Everybody hasn't said yes to everything that we've tried to do.
have you faced any challenges along the way with Ms. Andrews as far as response from the public or the perception of her in your efforts?
Numerous times, yeah.
For what reasons?
I mean, you'd almost have to ask the people that have said no to the things that we've gone after, or, so I can't really, it's hard for me to describe why certain outlets or magazines are not interested in pursuing her.
Is Ms. Andrews' credibility important to this process?
Of course.
You want people to support her and believe in her, isn't that right?
I want people to like her when they see her and think that she is somebody that they'd want to hear more from. I don't believe, but it's not the word I would use though. So.
Okay, fair enough. Did your firm also get involved with issuing any of the press releases on Ms. Andrews' behalf?
It depends. I mean, typically as a PR for would, not really the way I operate, but I would oversee from July 2011 through now any press release with her name on it I would see.
What about, to the extent Ms. Andrews has given interviews since July 2011, do those requests for interviews come through your office?
Yes.
And do you decide whether or not that she should do a particular interview?
I give a very strong opinion, and then she decides.
And have there been instances where people requested interviews of Ms. Andrews and the decision has been not to go forward?
Numerous times.
And if, in the circumstances where a decision was made that Ms. Andrews would give an interview, is your company involved with preparing Ms. Andrews for the interview?
Correct.
What about Ms. Andrews' Facebook account? Did your firm have any involvement in messages on Facebook account?
No, she runs her own Facebook account for mine. I only know her personal Facebook. I don't have any idea who runs her professional.
And if you communicate with Ms. Andrews on her personal Facebook account?
We are Facebook friends, yes.
And is it your understanding that that's a private page, as opposed to something that all her football fans can follow her on and see?
I would be speculating, but I'm fairly certain that that is a private page.
How about Ms. Andrews' use of Twitter? Is that something that your firm is involved with?
I mean, Erin and I will talk from time to time about tweets in this day and age in the marketplace. Tweets are part of contractual deals with brands, so we're involved with making sure that she sees through on contractual agreements.
And does your firm review the tweets that Ms. Andrews receives?
Receives?
Right.
I mean, no. there are times where something has been flagged and something is like really bad, we'll look at it and, you know, like if I have to, like there has been times where I've reached out to Twitter on her behalf to make sure that they've seen something that was pretty gross or mean, but I wouldn't say that I go through all of her incoming tweets now.
Well, how is it that you learn of those situations where there's a tweet that needs to be addressed? Is that brought to your attention by Ms. Andrews?
It
or-
varies.
Go ahead.
It varies. She has brought something to my attention, and there have just been times where if I've seen something with high traffic and I happen to be looking, it's caught my eye. But I don't dig in on a daily basis to look at the tweets.
And there's not somebody at your firm sits behind a desk who reads the tweets that go to Ms. Andrews?
No.
What about,
Great idea for an extra service if I could charge more money for it.
and can you recall any instance where you did get involved because of a tweet that was sent to Ms. Andrews where you then had to speak up on her behalf or respond?
I don't remember the specifics of what a tweet said, but I do know that there have been a couple times where I would reach out to Twitter because part of my job is obviously having a relationship with them and their entertainment folks, and have flagged certain inappropriate tweets.
And do you remember what made those particular tweets inappropriate?
I don't remember the exact wording, but they had to do with things, you know, involved with this case.
Meaning what?
Just people calling attention and saying, just pretty crude things regarding what's been going on with this.
And then you reached back out to whom? To the person who sent the message or to Twitter?
To Twitter.
And
Twitter has a system, especially now as they're maturing and getting older, they have many more systems in place now than they did even 2 years ago for you to flag tweets that are inappropriate. So back in the day, it would be something as just me reaching out directly to someone, a contact at Twitter, and showing a link, and then they would go and deal with it as they saw fit. And now it's all automated, and I have like a special access, you know, someone who represents talent to Twitter that I can flag those.
And do you know in any of those circumstances what Twitter did to deal with the issues that you brought to their attention?
I do know that there were times that Twitter shut down or suspended the users. I don't want to say shut down forever because I did not go back and review, but they suspended users for a long time.
And for the technologically challenged here, what do you mean by suspended?
They made it impossible for the user to access their account, and if you went onto that page, it would say this user is no longer here.
At the time you took on Ms. Andrews' representation in July 2011, did anyone, either in substance or words, tell you that Ms. Andrews was suffering from severe emotional distress in her life?
Did anyone outside of Erin?
We can start with that.
I mean, when Erin and I first sat down, she clearly was very open and honest about what had happened and how she felt about it, but nobody, I've never talked to anybody else about it now.
Okay, now let's talk about then the conversations you had just with Ms. Andrews on the topic of emotional distress at the time of July 2011, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir?
Sorry.
What did you discuss?
I mean, we discussed I wouldn't say in great detail about what had happened, but we certainly discussed her sensitivity to media and how she had felt with her previous publicist that she didn't always feel best protected from certain situations, and that she needed a strong person in her life to kind of help see her through these things, because she had a professional obligation to certain things to do media, but she just wanted some protection. That's it.
She did tell you then that she was suffering from severe emotional distress as of July 2011.
I just said I don't recall that she used those words. When we met, it was very clear, based on what she was looking for in our services, that she was upset about, but I don't recall if she used those exact 3 words together.
Did she tell you she was upset with her personal emotional state?
Yes, she did.
What words did she use?
I don't recall the exact words.
Can you recall any specific conversations after July 2012 where Ms. Andrews expressed to you difficulty in dealing with her daily functioning as a result of the stalker incident?
There are several incidences. I just unfortunately cannot tell you dates or times. It just, as we got to know Erin, it just became more and more prevalent that it was something that, you know, was a part of almost every conversation when it came to anything public facing.
And do you mean by that when you would receive a request for some sort of comment from Ms. Andrews, that it was an important factor for you to consider in deciding whether or not it was appropriate for her to take something on?
I believe that's fair. Sure, it's bigger than just a quote for a comment. I mean, it's any kind of opportunity that would come her way, especially if it involved travel, that was always a big consideration, yes. There's a big difference between just someone saying, hey, I just want to get 5 minutes with her, and they're doing a whole much more extended relationship with her.
So it's fair to say that in providing your services as a publicist manager, it was an important piece of information for you to consider in all aspects of her relationship.
Correct.
Did you observe any instances where Ms. Andrews was unable to meet her responsibilities under any of these endorsement deals after July of 2011?
I did not observe her not being able to, but I observed numerous times that it was a process to be able to get her to go through. She, not kissing ass, she's not in the room, but she's a professional and she agrees to do something, she'll see it through, but there were many times where it was difficult to get it to that point.
But ultimately, she did deliver, in your opinion, or what you observed?
Ultimately, she's done everything that she has agreed to do contractually since I've been working with her, yes.
Well, your answer, are there things that she agreed in contract to do, but then there came a time where she didn't want to perform it?
There were times when there were things that she would agree to do that would be difficult for her to do, and we would talk and we'd have to work through it. But she ultimately did them.
And can you just give me an example of something that was difficult for her to do that she ultimately followed through with?
Yeah, there was an event in January of 2013, I want to say, that was well attended by various, through Cintas was one of her other deals. And when we arrived, we realized that some of the VIPs at this meet and greet were executives from Marriott. And it was, we had to take a second, but we figured it out. She put her best face forward because she didn't want to cause a scene and didn't want to upset the Cintas folks. Had been very nice to her, and we got through it. But
Just Right, Cintas is who?
Cintas is one of her sponsors. Sorry, I didn't bring that up before. And she makes appearances on their behalf at kind of big sporting events throughout the year.
As her manager, does your company, what role does it play in Ms. Andrews' travel?
A good amount.
Can you describe it? I'll let you use your words.
Anything that does not involve her day-to-day responsibilities with Fox, we would oversee and deal with all aspects of her travel. And previously, when she was at ESPN, again, same thing. So if she was going to cover, a baseball game in Detroit, we are not dealing with the travel. If she is going to Minneapolis to make an appearance on behalf of Verizon, we are dealing with all of the travel.
Using your Verizon example where you do get involved from a managerial standpoint, do you have policies or guidelines around what's acceptable for Ms. Andrews' travel?
Yes.
And can you tell me what those are?
I can tell you some of them, but yeah, I mean, there are clearly hotel chains that she would like to avoid, just due to her comfort level. We use aliases, we are coordinating car transportation to and from, airports, also making sure that we're not using her name in certain places so that we're not raising awareness of her travel schedule. We really see everything from the minute she leaves her house until the minute she comes back home is under our responsibility.
And that only relates to non-ESPN or non-Fox events, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any interaction with ESPN or Fox in coordinating, when she's traveling for that side of the business versus outside of it?
Erin likes to keep her professional, like when it comes to her day-to-day employer, somewhat separate from what we're doing, just because she does not want to be held, looking like she's expected to be held in a different way than her colleagues and coworkers.
Are you familiar with what the travel policies or procedures, either at ESPN or Fox, were as it relates to her business travel on that side?
I'm not.
Who keeps Ms. Andrews' schedule as far as for the non-ESPN and non-Fox events? Is that your company?
My company, Carly more specifically, did today.
Mr. Kay, with respect to requests that your office receives for business opportunities for Ms. Andrews, have those requests increased since July 2011?
Well, that would be my base. We could do July 11. I don't know what they were before she was working with us.
Right. Since that time, July of 11.
Oh, since July 11 from now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. I would say that they've increased, yes.
And have those requests changed as it relates to the types of requests, meaning the type of client?
I think that'd be fair to say that there's been a better selection of opportunities that have started to come our way from.
And what makes an opportunity better, in your view?
I mean, again, it's a little touchy-feely probably for a legal answer, but just something that aligns with the overall strategy and goal for what we're trying to accomplish for her, and what she's trying to accomplish for herself, and so I mean, what could be great for her could be terrible for someone else, or vice versa. So
I think the question was to try to focus in on what are the types of opportunities that make sense for Ms. Andrews that align with her goals.
I think the opportunities for her to, again, the day and age that we live in, there's a professional obligation to your employer to keep an awareness about you, to drive awareness to the people that are paying her, whether that be Fox or other brands. So I think it's, the first goal is to keep herself in a position that her day-to-day employers will deem her to be someone that is famous enough to, and good enough at her job, obviously, to keep her employed. And then, on the secondary part with the brands, it's a part of how she makes a living is by subsidizing her professional contract with these deals. So to maintain that is part of what we're employed to do.
Does your firm get involved with negative comments that have been made about Ms. Andrews with respect to her performance, whether it be at a sporting event or on Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah, we have from time to time. Depends, to be perfectly honest, on who says it and how much attention we're going to give it, I guess.
And who decides on whether or not to give that type of negative publicity attention?
I guess ultimately Erin decides, as I said before, but on advice from Carly and myself.
And can you think of a particular circumstance where Ms. Andrews received negative criticism dealing with her professional activities where she came to your firm for consultation?
Yes, but the one thing that I think is a little vague is negative criticism is a little vague. So in terms of we'll deal with stuff if there's things that are not true. And I'll give an example. If a magazine is going to go print a story saying that Erin is on the verge of being fired from Dancing with the Stars, and I know that it is not true, I will do my best to make that magazine not write that and not print that. In terms of just if someone writes, no matter how big of an outlet, an opinion, and it's an opinion-based thing, we generally don't get involved. I mean, if I tried to shape every single person's opinion about all my clients, well, I'd hopefully be making a lot more money.
So you do a distinction between statements that are made about Ms. Andrews that are false versus people's opinions, right?
That is where I would attempt to draw the line. I'm sure there are times where someone's opinion rubbed me the wrong way and maybe I've reached out from time to time if I have a relationship, but usually the line is fact over opinion, fact versus opinion, I should say.
And has there been occasions where there was false information about Ms. Andrews that actually was then published to the public?
Several times.
So maybe it was my misunderstanding that, do you find out in advance if someone's going to publish a story about Ms. Andrews?
There are times, due to the awareness of our company and sometimes myself personally, that people will reach out and ask for a comment before they're going to go to print, and then obviously I have time to address and deal with it. And there are other times, some of the, for lack of a better term, shadier media will just print, and then we'll have to kind of deal with the reaction from that. But even in this day and age, when that happens, other outlets read it and then come to me, and then that's where I have to try to step in and correct the inaccuracies.
And in that circumstance, have you been able to correct inaccuracies or false statements?
Yeah, from time to time, yeah.
Was your company involved with the opportunity for Ms. Andrews to host Dancing with the Stars?
Yes.
And is that something that came in through your company or her agent?
It started with her agent, but I was very much involved throughout the whole process. I work with another high-level person at ABC, so I have relationships that...
And was that considered to be a good opportunity for Ms. Andrews, in your opinion?
It was, yes.
And what made that a good opportunity for Ms. Andrews, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it broadened her audience. It made her more appealing to a demographic that, and I'm being very, very stereotypical, that does not generally watch sporting events. Again, being very stereotypical. And also, actually to add, just because I want to make sure it's very clear, she happens to now work for a network that is very much pro their talent being out and about and having a broad appeal. So that opportunity seemed especially promising, considering that her current employer, we felt very strongly would look at this as a plus for them and then put us in a much better position for when her next deal is up for them to feel as if they wanted to continue to work with them. So,
And just no secrets, we're talking about Fox Broadcasting.
yes, Fox Broadcasting, yes. And I should say it's my opinion that they are very pro her doing this. They did not instruct me to go get her other deals, but it's my opinion that
It's your understanding that Fox sees that as a benefit to have its talent also be out in the media through other outlets, fair?
fair.
When you were considering whether it would be a fit between Ms. Andrews and your firm to provide these publicist services in July 2011, were you concerned in any way of how Ms. Andrews was as a result of the stalking incident that we're talking about in the lawsuit?
In my opinion, everybody that we work with, there are always sets of circumstances. I wouldn't say that I was concerned. I would say that it was something that was very prevalent and needed to be factored into how we were going to approach doing the job that she was asking us to do.
Why did you think it was a good move for Ms. Andrews to go from ESPN to Fox?
I thought it was a good move for her to go to Fox for a few reasons. First of all, it was a much more lucrative offer, and I thought that the increased exposure that they were outlining in their deal would be more in line with stuff that she wanted to do, which ultimately was doing NFL football games. I just thought that I felt pretty strongly, and I think I've been actually really right, that they just were a better fit for her and recognized what she could bring. Yeah.
Has she ever told you, I guess, putting aside your observations, has she ever come and told you that she is anxious about having to appear in an event?
Yes.
What type of event was it? Or under what circumstances? Maybe it's a broader question.
When she has professional obligations to be at public events. And I even know there are certain times, even in her personal life, where there's certain things that she'll avoid doing so she doesn't have to deal with certain crowds and responses that she's worried about getting.
Mr. Kay, my name is Tom Smith. I represent the owner of the National Marriott and its management company back at the time of this incident. I don't have a whole lot of questions. Earlier, you were discussing, you asked some questions about Twitter and some incidents where maybe something was posted that was inappropriate or offensive. You recall that topic coming up? And you mentioned it. I think some of those incidents were, you might have characterized those as being related to the lawsuit or to the incident.
Yes.
Okay. And my question is, have there been postings, other inappropriate postings that have come to your attention or Ms. Andrews' attention that were inappropriate but also had no relation to the lawsuit?
Oh yeah, that'd be fair to say.
Okay.
She's clearly in the public eye, so we get a lot of that stuff, yes.
Okay. So that's not uncommon, I guess, for somebody to face some criticism in this industry.
That is not uncommon.
Okay.
anybody in the entertainment business to get some criticism.
Okay. Is it fair to say that since July of 2011, when you and your company became involved, first as a publicist and as manager, that Ms. Andrews has taken on opportunities, a more broader range of opportunities than she had previously in her career? Is that fair way?
I think by best estimation, sure.
Okay.
Again, I don't know all the details of everything she did previous to working with us.
Okay. And I guess it just strikes me, for being a co-host of Dancing with the Stars, to me it strikes me as the kind of the clearest example of a large exposure, non-sports related opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
You've known Ms. Andrews to be professional the time that you worked with her, right?
Correct.
Even though she's had strong feelings about things related to this lawsuit, she has performed all of her contractual duties that you're aware of, right?
Yes.
It would probably be a good idea for a break right now, pretty soon, but
We'll take 15 minutes.